welcome to the Connect to Engage video chat series, where we explore the power of communication across industries. I'm Jennifer Nonn-Murphy, and I'm here with my three co-hosts, Sonia Sethi-Kohli, Adrienne Wallace, and Marie Strauss. Today, we are excited to welcome people from the fitness industry. So let's welcome Regina Mundt. Hi, Regina.
Hello, happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us, Erin Gilmour.
Hi.
Hello. And Ahmed Ahmed. Hey,
Glad to
Ahmed.
be here.
So happy you guys are joining us. We're going to kick things off with a question from Sonia.
Thank you all for being here and spending your time with us. Let's start off by learning more about each one of you. So if you could tell us how you got into the fitness industry and a little bit about your role and how you got into that role or roles. And whoever wants to go first can start. Not all at once.
I'll start. It's fine. I'm Erin. And I got into this role. My family actually owns a fitness company. And so I grew up in it. So it actually opened 2 years before I was born. And I was always around it and the energy of it. And then kind of worked in it as a 10, 11, 12-year-old. Went to school, went to college, came back, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I know I really loved what I got to do when I was young, and I was very fortunate to be able to be in the family business. So I started working out at our first club hotel. So it wasn't just a club sport, but it also had a hotel component, which was really fun for me because I got to see both sides of things. I wasn't ever stuck in just one lane. So I actually trained in both hotel and club fitness. More on the operations side of things. I grew up, like I said, doing operations, was never a trainer, still not a trainer officially or a coach. But I have actually started segueing in. So Jen probably reached out because I do a workout every morning, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6:15 as not a trainer, not a coach, but as a relatable person. So my fitness team during the pandemic, when we shut everything down, they said, we would really like to have someone do something 3 days a week that our members can connect with, but we need them to be relatable. And Erin, you don't love working out, so you're the perfect candidate. And I was like, oh, really? So there I started showing up Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it was probably the best thing for me because then I understood the endorphins and how I felt better mentally and physically from working out. So it actually helped me with my business to be this relatable figure for our company. Still not a trainer, not a coach, but it's been fun. I really enjoyed it, and it's been tricky navigating 20 years of communicating, which I'm sure we'll get into in the fitness industry. But that's how I started from the family and then jumped in and kept going on my own.
So that's live on Instagram. Are you also on live Facebook? Or just Instagram?
So my Instagram channels are connected to my Facebook account. So they kind of they both share, but yeah, I did it for 3 solid years. And there was a lot of me. And so I started taking a break. Our social media person was like, we see a lot of you. I'm like, okay. Well. But then I kicked it back up because people started asking me to keep doing it. So It was shocking to me. So I picked it back up about a month ago. And it's just been still going. It's funny when I go down to our Orange County property, they're like, oh, you're the Instagram person. I'm like, that is so weird. Yeah. But it's been fun.
Oh, awesome. How interesting. A unique way into the industry.
I know, it's all operations. Like people would come up to me and ask me, oh, do you still have a class? And I'm like, no, I can start your music for you, but no.
All right. Who's next?
I can hop
Regina.
in. So I started in the fitness industry because I could not afford to join my local fitness center. I graduated from college and was working for a not-for-profit organization and found out that the local small women-only franchise gym was offering memberships and training and certifications to people who might be interested. So at the tender age of 22, I got started and put on a silver unitard and a little pink thong and was Miss 80s aerobics.
You have photos? Regina, you have photos of that?
No, I don't, because we didn't have cell phones. We never took we didn't take pictures of anything back then. At any rate, that's how I got started. And I really loved group fitness. That was my first passion. And although I moved out of the nonprofit sector and eventually started working in corporate public affairs and marketing, I always continued to teach fitness classes on the side. I transitioned out of full-time corporate work because of some family obligations after I had children and I had an aging mom who needed a lot of assistance. So I left corporate America and decided to focus full-time on fitness. Initially just teaching classes wherever I could. Then I became a certified personal trainer. Once my kids were in school full-time, I transitioned into full-time fitness management and worked as a group fitness manager and personal training manager for about 11 years. Now I have transitioned out of fitness management and I've gone back to where I started in nonprofit management, and I do still teach fitness classes on the side. So I've kind of come full circle. That's it.
Awesome.
Nice. Along and every certification possible.
I do have an awful lot of certifications. I don't teach everything that I'm certified to teach. I have my favorites, right. But yeah, I do have a lot of certifications. When you're in it as long as I've been, you definitely gather them.
Literally the opposite of me.
All right. And what about you, Ahmed?
Yeah, so it's deeply personal how I got into fitness, but I was that kid at the beach who would always be wearing a shirt to cover his body. And going into high school, I knew something needed to change. I just lacked any self-confidence. If I wanted to go up and make friends, just getting words out of my mouth was difficult because I just felt so bad about myself. And it was hard. But I ended up working on my nutrition and on my fitness, and exercise became a really religious part of my life once I was in college. Like I was working out a lot. And have any of you guys over here heard of CrossFit?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So for those of you who haven't, it's basically like a very high intensity, rah, keep going until you drop kind of exercises. And I remember at the time, I was still a freshman in college. And so I wanted to find community. I wanted to find a place where I could work out. And I wanted to find something that would get my competitive nature out. Because growing up, my dad was actually really into soccer. He was a professional soccer player back in Egypt. And so sports and exercise was always a part of my life. And I know it's probably funny hearing that because that didn't stop me from getting super chubby and having those pictures where my cheeks are basically like coming out of my face there. But in any case, I was doing a CrossFit workout one day, and the workout was you basically throw weight and you catch it. And so I was doing that 30, 40, 50 times. And I remember there was AC/DC playing in the background. My coach was yelling at me to keep going. And so I did. I kept going. And then I immediately heard my back go. And it was to the point where yeah, it was so bad. And later that night, I couldn't find a comfortable place to sleep in because my back was just killing me. I couldn't sit down and study. I was hobbling around campus. It was absolutely terrible. But I knew I had to find a solution. So I looked up exercise science and physics and biomechanics and started really researching what it is that I could do so that I can feel better. Because I was afraid of losing my community. I was afraid of losing the friends that I made. I was afraid of losing the body that I had worked so hard to create. And the offshoot of that, my confidence as well. And so what I started to do was talked to different mentors that I ended up having based out of Canada. I spoke to a former physical therapist who became a personal trainer, and I started learning more and more. And I got really invested into learning everything that I could. And that's when I started actually training people back in 2016. After that, I opened up my own gym, Lotus Fitness, in 2019, right at the tail end of that. And then COVID happened, which was an incredible experience as a 22-year-old entrepreneur who didn't even know what he didn't know yet. But it was a baptism of fire, so to speak, and I learned as much as I could throughout that process. And these days, I'm very grateful to be able to help older adults who are experiencing pain and discomfort to overcome that pain using gentle strength training and exercise.
Love that.
Yes. Great.
So intriguing. You all have a very different background that led you to where you are today, and you're all in very different roles within the fitness industry. So I'm going to start with Erin again, and can you share with us what the role of effective communication is within your day-to-day workday?
So I actually started a couple programs myself, building them with trainers and coaches. So I built we have a brand, Club Sports. We have a hotel club brand, Renaissance Club Sport. And within those, I really found a niche into boutique fitness. So I really liked the bar classes and not necessarily CrossFit, but other like community based. Like I really liked this accountability community. So I built a program called Formula 3 with a couple of coaches. And I built another one called Rev 32 about 11 years ago, just because I felt like I was lacking in accountability. So the communication that was needed to start this program and keep it going, I was kind of building it. So I had to work with the coaches very closely and make sure that we were hitting all the right markers when we were building this program, launch the program, talking to participants and communicating what we're trying to accomplish and help them accomplish to meet their goals. And then work with the management team because I'm not on site where the program is actually being run. And so I'm having to make sure the managers and the sales team all know what the program is about. So I am communicating nonstop from my office, from Zoom calls. That's why my name is always up here because this is my channel. I'm on for Zoom calls with the coaches and with the management team and with the programming team and our social media person. So I use every tool I possibly can and just make sure that everything is very clear. So every time we have a phone call, I then followed up with an email. If there's tasks that were given out, whether they're assigned to me or to somebody else, I always just want to make sure we have a due date on them or what the expectation is from them. And then we follow up off of that. I've just found that to be incredibly helpful with so many players that I'm working with and different talents that I don't know what the nutritionist knows. I don't know what the trainer knows, but I know I need their information in order to make the best program possible for our participants. So in order to keep it straight, and then they'll correct me if that way they see it in writing, they'll correct me if they're like, oh no, I didn't say 30 macros or 30 grams of protein for your macros. I said 40. And I'm like, oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
So even catching those little slip ups back in writing, it helps. So yeah, just lots of avenues, but yeah, it's tricky bringing different teams together.
Absolutely, I can imagine. And are you all in more than one state or just one state?
So actually, talk about the craziness of the pandemic. We had nine club sports, and we sold them in 2019, literally closed at the end of the year, and then pandemic hit. So when pandemic hit, we had 2 Formula 3 boutique studios that I was in charge of, and the Renaissance Club Sport down in Orange County. And then the Renaissance Club Sport is actually 174 hotel rooms, and it has 85,000 square feet of fitness, which is like all the cardio, all the strength, all the group fitness classes, personal trainers, basketball. So it has everything. So it's a lot of programming to coordinate, make sure you're not oversaturating people is very tricky. But yeah, so we're just in California right now, just in Orange.
But still very much running a corporation. Yeah, thank you. What about you, Regina, in your fitness instructing role? How's the communication on a day-to-day basis?
So as an instructor, one of the challenges I think that I and a lot of my colleagues face is that many of us work for a variety of fitness facilities. And so as an instructor, I think it's very important to stay on top of all of the communications channels that every one of my employers uses. As a former manager, I can tell you that it's extremely challenging to get quick responses from instructors who are maybe not, sitting at a computer or don't think to look at their email on a regular basis. It really depends on the type of fitness facility as to what communication channels work best. In a corporate fitness setting, and I do work for a major fitness player right now, the resources are endless, and there are a variety of interactive community or communications channels that are used. As a manager of a Parks and Rec based fitness facility, I can tell you that we didn't have access to those kinds of tools, and so we relied on either email or text messaging, but text messaging is not super effective for record keeping purposes. So to be able to get breaking news information as an instructor, it's important for the instructor to stay on top of whatever channel that employer is using. As a manager or a management entity, it's important to understand that instructors maybe are not checking all of those resources on a regular basis, and you've got to figure out ways to get them if the information is particularly time sensitive.
Awesome. Communication channels. All right. Ahmed, what about you? What type of role does communication play in your day-to-day workday?
Yeah, so it's interesting that Regina was bringing up communication channels because as a solopreneur, I use many. And whether that means phone calls to talk to people who can potentially benefit from my service, or emails, or I don't know if you may or may not know this, but I write a column for a newspaper over here on Long Island. And so I use a lot of different communication channels. But ultimately, what I found is that the most effective communication channel is the one that resonates most with the person that you're looking to speak to. And so I mean that on multiple levels, whether it's a personality-based thing, in terms of different personalities want to be communicated to differently. Or if it's a different channel, meaning if I'm looking to speak to a particular demographic. In my case, I like I said, I specialize in helping older adults in a one-to-one service. What I often find is that reaching them via email or phone call is most effective, as opposed to if I was talking to a millennial like myself, maybe text might work better. And so what I'm trying to say is the communication, again, just to repeat, that is most effective is the one that resonates most with who I'm looking to speak to.
Very important points.
Well, I was just going to say, Anne-Marie, I know that Ahmed is your guest. Did you prep him with that answer? Are you like training him on the side of communication training coaching?
No, not at all. But I have, since Ahmed and I met at a talk that I had done for a Chamber of Commerce on Long Island, ever since.
Which was fantastic, by the way. You did a really good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And one of the components we talked about that night was generational communication. So when you talk about different channels, what generation the person you're speaking to definitely comes into play. But ever since Ahmed and I met at that event, we've been in touch, and I have to give you kudos, Ahmed, because you do use multiple channels in your communication to the people who subscribe to your list, and how you offer video and written text and a whole assortment of different types of communication to get your message to the person that you're speaking to. So it's very appreciated from the receiver end.
I know we have to move on to the next question. I just wanted to make a point to all three of you. So, Emma, what you said about the different, resonating, we know that, as Anne Marie was saying, that we have all, I think it's the first time that we have 6 generations in the workplace and in the fitness industry. People are living longer. They want to be healthier. So you have to respect what is the best mode of communication for that individual or that age group, I guess. And then, Erin, what you were saying about, you being the relatable person because you're not a coach or trainer, but yet you are managing all of these different entities to make your program. So communication, just like you pointed, so super important to have the right communication, especially when it's not your area of expertise, right? The operations piece of it is, but and then Regina, what you said, just with in the management sector, knowing firsthand when you're working as a fitness instructor for different facilities, they all have different procedures and policies, but then getting a hold of them when it's not their main job, right? Or place of work, or they're just an as needed instructor, it's that much more difficult to find the best way to communicate with them. So all of you, I'm loving this communication conversation that we're having. So sorry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my question, it revolves around storytelling. So let's hear a story. Stories are critical. A really short story about a situation where communication was either a vital success or an epic failure, either working with a client, working with an employee, anything that would be helpful to us and our listeners. Regina, how would you like to start?
Well, I think that probably one of the most dramatic illustrations of the need for effective communication was when everything shut down in 2020. We in the fitness industry all needed to figure out a way to make our programs accessible to people remotely. And we needed to be able to get the word out that our programming was going to continue on a virtual basis. We needed to, in some cases, help our members or our clients understand how to use and access the technology to be able to find our programs. And I think that for many instructors, trainers, boutique gyms, corporate gyms, their success today is based on what successes they had during the pandemic and how successfully they may have been able to keep their members and clients engaged.
Engaged. We'll talk about that later.
A good word?
Go ahead.
Of
course. It's all about engagement.
Great job, Regina. No, it almost seems like a dream that we lived through that time. And the fact that some of that virtual communication element has just carried on and been just a part of our life. Like, look what we're doing right now. This is also an example of that. So thank you for that story.
My son asked me the other day, did Zoom exist before COVID? Exactly. And I said, I'm not sure. I don't think I ever used it or heard of it before. Exactly. So
yeah. Thank you. Ahmed, would love to hear your story.
Yeah. So one of the very first questions I ask my clients when I'm onboarding them is hey, I'm an educator at heart. Are you somebody who wants to learn as much as possible intra-session? I use other words, but are you somebody who wants to learn? Should I speak about the science behind why we're doing what we're doing? Or are you just somebody who's here to work and you just want to get down to the exercise? And I think going into the conversation and the professional relationship with those expectations already set based on their preferences has been highly effective in terms of helping communicate the way that I ought to be communicating with them. And then of course you learn about what people respond to. Somebody, and you can see this on their face. They'll tune out once you start talking about muscle length and other buzzwords that I might use when I'm discussing why we're doing what we're doing. And so I think it's kind of like as much as it's a process where I'm looking to get people's input, trial and error helps really shape everything perfectly so that I can package it as best as possible for them.
Absolutely. And I think that, I mean, just from personal experience, I bet you can tell a lot from that nonverbal facial expression if something hurts, like on somebody, like they're, ow. And then so you have to adapt and change based on that as well.
No, it's funny you say that, Jennifer, because just the other day I saw somebody who were doing an exercise and I noticed them like wince a little bit. They were just like, and I'll often ask people, hey, how did that feel? But I right away I said, hey, I noticed you winced there. Can you tell me a little bit about what went on for you? And we started discussing that it wasn't necessarily a pain, but it was that they expected a pain. And so I could have just assumed, oh, that hurt. But no, that wasn't the case. They just expected that it would hurt because there's a history of that exercise not making them feel good.
Yeah. It speaks a lot to you paying attention and being connected to the people that you're working with. Erin, let's hear your story about communication.
Our program has a lot. So when you put fitness and nutrition together, and then you put habits like stress and all of those things under one umbrella, it's a big chunk for people to bite off all at one time. So it's I'm very delicate with how we present it to people based on like what Ahmad's saying with what Ahmed, sorry, with what how they want to receive the information. So I know I built the program with kind of me at heart, don't love working out, ended up understanding the benefits, like truly, like the program I started 11 years ago really made me see how much better I feel when I work out, that I wanted to share that with so many people. And the frustrating thing I kept hitting was everyone needs to be communicated to differently in order to receive that message. So, we kind of went about this one program is wonderful and so impactful, but how are we going to get it to people? So we ended up doing some short videos. So like if you're more of a video person, you can log in, we will drip it to you in your email inbox. And I pop up now because everyone apparently likes my relatableness on Instagram. So I pop up and I say, hey, this is our week. Here's our hot topic. Here's what we're focusing on. Like quick and easy. If you want more of the in-depth approach, like I send out an email that tells you why you want to be hydrating in great detail. So if you need more background information, you can consume it that way. So I think just finding and connecting with people on their different avenues, with whether someone wants to log into an app or not. And, another login system, everyone's like, oh man, I have to log in somewhere else now.
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. But some people don't open up their emails. So it's like this
passwords.
Yeah, I know. So we definitely have struggled with communicating effectively, but once we started covering all these different avenues, we saw a bigger take and a bigger buy-in and understanding of what we were trying to do. And honestly, just communicating honestly to people and being that source of information they can hopefully trust. Especially in the world of fitness and wellness, it's a very delicate world. People are, it hurts, like their emotions are tied to this industry. So you have to weave carefully. But yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've built that communication channels and pathways, and I'm glad that it's successful for you guys to have all of those different avenues of people to digest information.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy being Ahmed was saying, like, you have to be the master of all of these channels. That's not mine. Like, my go-to is not reading in-depth emails, but
some people need. Yeah. Anne Marie, what you got?
What do I have? I want to thank you all for really understanding the importance of getting to, as Ahmed said, the why. Why are your clients with you? What is their all of you, Erin and Regina, you both said, what what is their preferred modality, and how can you use your communication to really get to what they need. So it's so wonderful to hear that you're taking your clients individually to heart.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, what do you feel is the biggest mistake that individuals in your profession make when it comes to communication? Ahmed, why don't you give us a first time try?
Yeah, yeah. Not even caring or having it on their radar that communication is an important piece of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
That's right. He's got it.
Well, because people hear fitness and exercise and gym, and I was thinking about it myself, people are thinking about, well, what do I wear? Where am I going? Is it virtually or is it to the gym? Communication is probably low on the list if it's there at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Regina, what do you think?
I'm trying to decide what hat I should put on to answer this question. I think that as an instructor or trainer, probably the biggest mistake that can be made is to assume that the client understands the intention behind what you are asking them to do. So, for example, not necessarily giving time to build up to a specific level of fitness and just, jumping right in a group fitness setting to maybe a higher level than everybody has access to who's walked in the door. I think it's really problematic if an instructor does not understand that people are coming in the door who maybe haven't worked out in 3 years. And there are also people coming in the door who take your class 5 days a week. And you've got to be able to understand and communicate effectively to each one of those people so that they have a successful experience. So I put on my instructor hat to answer your question.
And that's a good hat to wear. I know in classes that I've taken, oftentimes you'll hear the instructor say, and we have modifications for this particular exercise if you have, and they will identify different situations. And I always find that so important because when you're in the class as the participant, you look around at what other people are doing. Sometimes you're not always paying attention to the instructor because you're feeling, I want to keep up with that other person that's next to me. And as an instructor, when you can communicate the importance of them paying attention to themselves, that's really beneficial. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's also, I think, important to present those options as not as levels so that people feel like, well, I'm at, entry level and I'm at, advanced. It's important to communicate that there are lots of different ways to get an effective workout in that particular class. And I'm going to show you different ways to do it.
Awesome. Thank you. Erin, what are your thoughts?
I think in our industry, there's a lot of noise. There's always something changing. There's always the newest thing. And we have to just remember that something got this person to you. So making sure you're finding out what got that person to show up. So my goodness, there's so many things like people, it's been over the years, right? We're doing all protein. We're doing no carbs. We're doing anything and everything. And I think it's just really something triggered that person to come in, and we need to remember and respect that they're going through something that got them there. Because that's a hard step for a lot of people to make is I need to make a change. I'm not feeling great. So I think something crazy like 16% of people actually worked out regularly. That leaves a whole lot of other people who are kind of floundering out there and not not knowing. So we really have to make those connection points with those people and the whys and help them achieve their goals and set them appropriately. So like Regina was saying, everybody's starting out at a different point, and it's our job to make sure that they are starting where their body lets them start. Because for us, I just keep telling everyone it's consistency. You just have to keep showing up. So if you show up the first day and you are competing with the person next to you, or you're competing with yourself from 5 years ago, that's not healthy. Start where you need to start so that you can keep showing up. So it's just reminding people to listen to your body, listen to yourself, be consistent, instead of like throwing people in there and just saying, oh, all right, you can do this. We're going to lift weights all day. And we're learning more and more as, more women's health comes out, but we're doing a huge shift in our program with perimenopause and menopause and hormone health, because those are major blockers in how you're feeling and how weight is affecting you or coming off or staying on or whatnot. So it's not a one size fits all. You can't just enter one generic program and assume that you're going to look exactly like that person.
Right.
So making sure people know it's for them and they need to kind of see what works and then go from there.
Thank you, Erin. Thanks all of you for your insight. Jennifer?
I was going to say the exact same thing. Wonderful, wonderful insight from all of our panelists. Now, for fun, tell us something that is on your bucket list. Regina, you start us off.
Well, you're going to think this is particularly funny based on your knowledge of what I just did the other day. But my bucket list item is to be able to sit in the Bravo Clubhouse for a taping of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. The audience is teeny tiny, and I don't know how you get access to it, but it's on my bucket list to find that out.
Right. So someone make that happen.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Ahmed?
So yeah, I've been learning Spanish a lot more in the past few weeks. Like every week, a friend of mine who I've been friends with actually since middle school, we get on Zoom and we study some Spanish. And eventually, what I want to do is I want to go to Spain. I want to watch Barcelona, the Barcelona soccer team play, because I'm a huge soccer guy. It's always, like I said, it's always been in my life. And I want to be able to have conversations in Spanish there and be there with my girlfriend and just enjoy some beautiful weather and nice beaches and all that stuff I really love.
That all sounds beautiful, except it's the wrong team. It's Real Madrid that you should be watching.
Oh, you're Madrid? Okay. Wow. Wow. Contentious, but fair enough.
What about you, Erin?
Ironically, travel is also on my bucket list. So I have 3 kids, 12, 10, and 7. They're all in a dual immersion program for school. And so they're all taking Spanish as their language in class. And so my goal is to take them for a month or 2 over summer to Spain and Europe and have them travel around and have them translate for me so that I know they're picking it up and learning. I can really test their knowledge. But yeah, it's that traveling's on our bucket list for sure.
Well, just if you go to Spain, Real Madrid is the team you want to go and see.
I will make sure. I have no ties. So yes, I will go wherever you tell me.
Sonia, I'd be careful. I wouldn't want to fight Ahmed. Look at him.
No, probably not.
He looks stronger than you. Well, we want to express our very deepest appreciation to our panelists. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy lives to share your communication experiences with us. You've offered so many wonderful insights, and that our audience is sure to find incredibly valuable. The 4 of us are going to go offline here in a second and kind of discuss and delve into the key insights that we heard that stood out in today's conversation. So thank you guys very, very much, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Thank you. Great to meet you.
That was amazing. I literally took like pages and pages of notes. It seems like the guests that we had on this particular episode were all very dialed in to the importance of communication, and they communicate on a lot of different levels with a lot of different, people, stakeholders, but it seems like they have it kind of figured out.
Yes, it was really impressive how each of the guests realized the importance of communication for what they do, from knowing how each individual can access technology and giving them support if necessary for that. Then also how they react or respond to messages, whether it's text, phone, or email, and taking all of that into account for the communication.
Yeah, and I think it was impressive that although each panelist was in a different role, or how they got into the fitness industry, they all had somewhat similar topics of discussion. For example, saying, there's different channels that they had to deal with in terms of communication, but really, I think what Ahmed said about really focusing in on what resonates best with that client or customer, whoever you're talking to, what is their best mode of communication. And then Erin also talked about, understanding their why. Why are they there? And that's really important, the whole communication piece. And then Regina brought up some points in terms of, again, knowing what the best way to communicate is and understanding what each individual is going through in terms of whether it's a client in a class or whether it's one of your instructors, if you're a manager or in management, knowing what the best way to get a hold of them and communicate important, pertinent information. But I think, it was clear that they were all very tuned into all of the different challenges there are, but all of the opportunities for different communication platforms as well. So in one question, Ahmed was talking about his face-to-face communication and, as really looking at a client and showing them or teaching them whatever their needs were based off of what he was seeing and their face-to-face communication. Where Regina was talking about during COVID and the pandemic, they were, getting out the note to clients that we're still here for you, but virtually. We're going to make your fitness regimen available to you virtually. And then in terms of Erin talking about the marketing or even, getting fitness tips and workouts, but doing it through more digital media practices. So there's ways of communicating for something that's very physical too, your physical fitness, but they were all very impressive panelists, I thought.
Yeah, the takeaway I had was that in the fitness world, it's not a one size fits all situation. So I really appreciated everybody's perspective on that and the attention that everybody had, all the panelists had to individuals and where they're meeting people where they are. And that was really important.
One or two quick things. So Ahmed talked about an onboarding process, which I thought was so cool for training someone one-on-one. How much information do you want me to give you? And that's a great question to ask. Do you want all the details, the explanation, or you just want to do the work? But then being in tune with them enough to recognize those nonverbal cues in a workout to say, okay, I'm seeing something going on in your face. What does that mean? What's going on? Talk to me. So I really enjoyed that part of it too, being so much in tune with your clients or whomever it is that you're supporting in their nonverbal and also their preferences.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So once again, communication takes center stage and we love it. I want everyone to be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on those notifications so you never miss out on an episode of the Connect to Engage video chat. Please remember to share this series with others who are curious, passionate, or just need to know more about communication. And that concludes this episode of the Communication Connect to Engage video chat. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Thank you.